Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to Text Me When You Get Home. And this is Nia Wilson.
There's a lot of wealth in the Bay Area, but on the other end of the spectrum, there's a lot of crime as well. It could be very unsafe if you don't know. It is generally understood that there is a higher level of crime on board. Yeah, she's not like Bart at all. I can remember telling them, be very careful. All you hear is, I think Mia was like she tripped. You can see the blood splash across the platform. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do at that moment. I've described this video as the worst video I've ever seen. I got there, I see a bunch of ambulance and police. I was shocked. Latifah was in the hospital. I was so raged. Everybody was looking for him. The anonymous caller said the person you're looking for is on the train. Tonight I'll never forget. It's something I will carry with me until the day I die.
A young woman is missing tonight after leaving a bar with a stranger, then texting help to a friend. You're watching her terrifying abduction. A missing woman's new body was discovered in this ravine. A young woman survived. There is an alarming crisis of violence, kidnapping, and murder against innocent women. The census runner has struck a chord with thousands of women. This has sparked a global movement online of women sharing their own fears. They're united under a hashtag, Text Me When You Get Home, a phrase that women are all too familiar with.
When I think of Nia, I think sunshine, big, bright, beautiful smile. Me and her grandmother used to play tug of war with her. She liked to keep her alive, and I like to keep her alive. She had a beautiful upbringing.
In July 2018, Nia Wilson is 18 years old, living with her dad in Oakland, California. The youngest of 9 siblings in a blended family, Nia is adored by all and welcomes the attention.
I have 4 children, including Nia. She's my youngest. Nia was very sheltered growing up. She was very articulate. She learned how to read at a very young age. Nia is my sister, and we're 2 years apart. When we got into high school, she became more popular. She had friends. She was like the it girl. When it came to her one scrap, I'm like, okay, I must have moved on a beat with you. And then it turned into us having our own little group. It shocked a lot of people. She thrived. Nia loved social media. Nia had like buku followers. So many pictures on her Instagram. Different hairstyles, different shoes.
She liked to dress up and do hair and makeup and things.
Any picture that you see with her makeup on, she did it herself.
One thing I know that she loved was her crop tops. We used to get in trouble for wearing crop tops. And my dad swears he wasn't overprotective, but he was so protective, especially towards me and Nia. It was just like, because we're the youngest, but it was like, you're gonna grow up someday, Dad. Like,
Daddy's girl. Could you take me here? Could you take me there? Could you pick me up from work? And constantly.
Though her parents are no longer together, they're friendly and keep the family close. Nia connects with loved ones constantly, in person and by phone.
We text a lot, to check in, and I make sure, because, still my baby. You warm. Ain't nobody messing with you. Also, we text all the time.
We didn't text much. I like hearing her voice, instead of texting her. If they were out there, call me and let me know where they were and what time they were going to be home. And I appreciated that. If Nia was out too late, Latifah would be on the phone looking for it.
Latifah, 26 years old at the time, keeps tabs on her younger sisters.
Latifah was more of a mom figure than a sister figure to me. Where are you at? And where's you and Nia at? And is y'all okay? If we don't answer the phone, it's like 20 missed calls, text messages, and I tell her like we are okay, good.
Graduating high school in the coming December, Nia enjoys her final free summer, socializing in Oakland in the Bay Area, often with Tashaya.
I feel like it's nothing like Oakland. The music, the dancing, it's like one big family.
There's a large gap between the haves and have-nots, if you will. It's close to Silicon Valley. There's a lot of wealth in the Bay Area, but on the other end of the spectrum, there's a lot of poverty. And as a result, there's a lot of crime as well.
Oakland is safe, but it could be very unsafe if you don't know Oakland. If you don't know your children's whereabouts, it could be detrimental.
All you'd have to do is go to East Oakland or West Oakland and speak to the residents of those areas, and they would almost all certainly describe hearing gunshots in the evening on a regular basis.
Nia is undeterred by the potential risk, despite first-hand experience with loss and senseless violence. 2 years earlier, her boyfriend and a friend tragically drowned in a nearby reservoir. While attending a memorial service for the two young men, Nia was standing next to a girl who had just performed a dance solo when someone fired a gun into the crowd. The girl was hit in the neck and fell to the ground. Nia comforted her until the paramedics arrived. The young dancer died a few hours later.
She was being Nia. She was being selfless.
The shooter was never identified, enraging the community and leaving Nia forever changed.
It was like any other normal day. I got up and got ready for work, and the girls were getting ready to go to an event at their cousin's house.
Nia, Tashaya, and their older sister Latifah were preparing to go to their Aunt Teresa's house in Concord. Teresa is their father's sister.
That aunt had been diagnosed with a terminal illness, but unlike many celebrations of life, the family decided they were going to celebrate this person while they were still alive.
Nia and her sisters traveled to Concord on BART, or Bay Area Rapid Transit, a public rail system serving the Oakland and San Francisco region.
Millions of people take BART every year, but it is generally understood that there is a higher level of crime on BART, given the mobile aspect of it.
I've been riding for years. I never had no problems, no altercations, no anything. Nia, she did not like BART at all. So she tried to avoid it as much as possible. She would ride the bus before she ride BART.
I can remember telling them, be very careful.
The festivities last longer than expected, but Nia, Tashaya, and Latifah's plans for catching a ride home are altered when the person who is going to drive them has to leave early.
They just shifted gears and decided they would take BART. So a family member dropped them off at the Concord BART station at about 9 p.m. The three sisters entered the BART area and took the escalator up to a platform.
After waiting about 15 minutes, the Wilson sisters get on the train heading back to Oakland.
BART train continues past 4 other stops.
Around this time, Latifah calls the girl's father, Answer, to let him know they're close to the MacArthur BART station, one of Oakland's central hubs for BART, where they'll transfer to another train.
The BART arrives at about 9:35 p.m., and the three sisters immediately get off of the train.
We were about to enter the MacArthur train. I got on the train before Nia and Latifah because I was cold. And that's when I was waiting for the lady with the stroller to back out. So when I sat down, I seen Nia. It was like she tripped.
But it quickly becomes clear Nia wasn't tripped. Bleeding from her neck, she has just been viciously attacked.
I was like, what just happened? Like, I was in shock. I didn't know what to do at that moment.
After a family celebration, Nia Wilson and her sisters Tashaya and Latifah are returning to their home in Oakland, California, on BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit. Transferring at MacArthur Station, Tashaya enters the car first, becoming horror-struck as Nia stumbles into the train car.
It looked like she tripped. Yeah, it was blood coming down from her neck.
Dumbfounded how a large wound has appeared on her sister's neck, Tashaya is terrified for Nia's life.
I believe the doors had closed and then they had reopened, and then I started screaming, trying to find help.
Latifah grabs Nia's neck and is trying to hold Nia's neck, and as she turns, you can see the blood splash across the platform, and you know that she is hurt very seriously. At the same time, Tashaya, the middle sister, immediately does something that many daughters would do.
I ended up calling my dad.
I went over a friend of mine's house for dinner. My phone rang and picked it up. It was Tashaya, and she was screaming.
And told him, like, Nia got stabbed. We had a Bart. I was screaming on the phone. He just kept saying, like, what? What? Like, Nia got stabbed and we're at MacArthur Bart.
I couldn't understand what she was saying. All I could recognize her saying was Bart. I figured, maybe they got in a little skirmish with somebody on Bart, so I jumped in my car and I got there as soon as I could.
Officers discover Latifah is also gravely wounded.
There was significant blood all over the platform. There was significant blood all over the officer who was providing first aid. In addition, we have Latifah. She also suffers a stab wound to the neck. Blood is essentially oozing out. She was bleeding, holding her neck while trying to essentially save her sister, who was her baby sister.
I got there, I see the bunch of the ambulance and police. I jumped out my car, and as I running across the street, I see them loading Latifah in the ambulance. I see blood dripping down her arm, and I asked her what happened. She just said, "Go check on Nia."
Tashaya remains in shock.
It was people like hugging me, giving me water because I started hyperventilating. I couldn't breathe because I was screaming and hollering, like screaming for help. I believe an officer came and talked to me. I was just like, go help my sister, like, just make sure she's okay.
Heeding Latifah's plea to check on Nia, answer comes upon the most inconceivable reality imaginable.
I turn around, I run up the stairs at work. I see my daughter's body in there. It's hard. It's the hardest thing I ever experienced in my life. Seeing my baby dead.
Unfathomably, Nia has succumbed to her injuries.
Shia was somewhere screaming, hollering. I could hear, but I couldn't see her. But I was numb. I was in a state of shock.
Nia, as a result of being stabbed, suffered a tear to her carotid artery and a tear to her jugular vein. As a result of both of those injuries, she bled out in less than 2.5 minutes, and there was nothing anybody could have done short of her going on to a surgeon's table for emergency surgery.
I still feel guilty to this day for not being able to physically help her, but
I went back down the stairs. The news met me, the news media.
I was sitting on the bench behind my dad. I was just screaming.
And I work at Highland Hospital. I see this every single day. I never imagined myself going through nothing like this. That's my baby girl laying up there. I want justice for my daughter. What did the police tell you about the transfer? Did they tell you anything? I haven't heard anything from anybody. The hardest thing for me was to get on the phone and call Lisa and tell our daughter. Tell our daughter was dead. She just lost it. Phone dropped, screaming.
He was like, Nia got stabbed, and I could just see So I just hung up.
Alicia takes a car service from her home in Sacramento to the hospital in Oakland, about a 2-hour ride.
It was like the longest, quietest, eeriest, because I kept on waiting on them to call back and say she's okay.
Reeling from the sudden and brutal loss of their youngest child, Alicia and Answer are stricken with grief while simultaneously hoping that Latifah will pull through.
We didn't really know what we had other than Nia had been murdered, and we didn't know whether or not Latifah would make it because the nature of her injuries were unknown, particularly given the vital organs and vital arteries and veins that were in her neck.
About an hour after the attack, the family waits at the hospital for news of Latifah's status. Almost an hour since the Wilson sisters are brutally attacked while riding public transportation in Oakland, California, their family struggles through the immediate fallout. Nia, the youngest sister and baby of the family, lay dead, her throat slashed, and Latifah, the oldest of the three, was rushed to the hospital with knife wounds to her neck.
It's a night I'll never forget. I was all there.
Latifah was in the hospital. My mind was just like in a fog.
When I got up to the hospital, he told me she had got stabbed in the neck. I didn't know that. I was shocked. This guy killed my baby and he could have killed Latifah.
My name is Latifah Wilson. I am a survivor of one of the most horrific times in my life. I remember pulling up to Highland and they taking me out. And from then on, it was kind of a blur.
She told me she was in stable condition, and that made me feel a lot better.
I knew she was going to be all right, but she didn't know Nia was gone at that point.
I just heard as a lot of people, doctors, and then I seen my brother, then my dad come in. And I'm like, where's Nia? And he hesitated. And my dad ended up telling me, and that's when I tried to get out the bed. And my brother was like, don't get up, don't get up. I don't care what y'all saying. I just want to get up.
Before leaving for Latifah's bedside, Tashaya is reeling from the attack, experiencing acute physical and emotional trauma.
I just remember I kept fainting. I had called this guy I was dating at the time. He carried me over his shoulder, put me in the car, and I remember a lot of people calling my phone, and I was just sitting in the passenger seat, just staring up at the ceiling. I couldn't speak. It's like I was zoned out. I was numb.
Tashaya finds her family at the hospital, and Latifah gives her account of what happened earlier that night. Beginning with the train pulling into MacArthur Station, the sisters transfer to their train heading towards their stop, Warm Springs.
Warm Springs train just pulled up. Tashaya walk in. As we approach to go in, a lady and her baby backing up. She don't see us because she's backing up with her back turned to us, but the baby like this, that Nia. And Nia, hi baby, hi. And me and Nia proceeded to walk onto our train, but all you hear is, and Nia flung forward. And before I know I could turn back to me, and I dropped to the left, and that's when Nia screamed my name. And she just said, Latifah. She was trying to walk over to Tashaya, And I'm like hysterical now, like, what just happened?
Nia and Latifah exit the train, and Latifah is holding her.
The lady with the baby, she threw the baby blanket over. And all I could think of is like apply pressure. I'm not knowing if I'm hurting her. I'm not knowing if I'm making it. So I live with that on my mind constantly. Did I hurt her? Did I make her worse? And then I turned around and the security guard just grabbed me. It was like, you've been stabbed too. He took me and put me on the ground.
With Latifah recovering, police continue to gather evidence, hoping to identify and locate the person responsible.
Immediately upon the murder happening, Bart Police Department began collecting surveillance. Our BART system at the time had been upgraded as far as all their surveillance footage.
BART surveillance footage captures the entirety of the attack. The suspect captured on the footage is a 20 to 30-year-old white male wearing a white t-shirt. It begins when the suspect first encounters Nia and her sisters as they arrive at BART.
You can see that the suspect's attention is immediately directed towards the sisters. He becomes focused on them. As soon as the sisters make it clear that they're about to get on one of the BART trains headed towards Oakland, he then puts his hoodie over his head, grabs his backpack, and hustles over and gets on the actual car that the sisters have. As the sisters are standing and seated on the BART train, the suspect is roughly about 10 feet away from Nia. The BART train continues past 4 other stops, ultimately arriving at the MacArthur BART station, which is one of the central hubs in the city of Oakland. The 3 sisters immediately get off of the train. As they make their way towards the exit, the suspect stands up and begins to follow them. As the sisters are making their way across the platform, this Caucasian male is seen on surveillance footage essentially bending down and removing the knife and then secreting it under his shirt. The sisters are waiting now for the train doors to open. As the train doors begin to open, the suspect approaches them from behind, looking up and down the platform as if looking for an escape route. He then takes the knife from underneath his shirt and immediately stabs Nia Wilson in the neck twice, and then stabs the older sister, Latifah, in the neck once and tries to stab her again the second time, but his momentum has carried him past her. When the sisters are stabbed, Nia immediately jumps onto the train, followed immediately by Latifah, who actually glances over her left shoulder and sees the suspect. He then jogs for a short distance, turns the corner to go down the stairs to exit the BART platform, and as he turns the stairs, other people start running and screaming. He begins to run and tries to blend in with them. He makes his way down the bottom of the platform and illegally exits the BART station. At about that time, Nia comes off of the BART train, and as she turns, you can't see the blood coming out of her neck, but you can see the blood splash across the platform, and you know that she is hurt very seriously. Latifah grabs Nia's neck and is trying to hold Nia's neck while she herself is bleeding from the neck. While all this is happening, the suspect goes past the police officers and directs them behind him, telling them, somebody's hurt on the platform, you need to go to the platform. This is also caught on the police officer's body-worn camera. The 2 officers make their way up to the platform and find Nia essentially bleeding out. The suspect has basically jogged about a block and entered a BART parking structure. You can see by this time that the suspect has already changed his hooded sweatshirt to a different color hooded sweatshirt, which he then tucks into a backpack containing his own personal belongings, and he tucks them behind essentially a wall. He turns, jogs to the middle of the parking structure, removes his shoes with his feet, and then pulls his sweatpants down, and he has shorts on underneath. He then picks up his shoes, his sweatpants, and then runs out of the BART parking structure and discards the sweatpants that he had. By this point, Nia Wilson has already expired. She's dead at this time. And hour later, we pick up more surveillance footage from one of our local bus routes where the suspect essentially tricks his way onto the bus by claiming he has an injury. In the Bay Area, it's pretty well known that if you have an injury and it's late at night, the bus drivers will give you a ride free of charge. So he tricks his way onto the bus and then asks the bus driver to take him to a separate BART station. You want to go to downtown?
Nia's killer finds his seat, then disappears into the night with her family and a city on edge.
I just wanted justice for my baby.
The day after 18-year-old Nia Wilson is murdered while riding Bay Area rapid transit with her two sisters in Oakland, California, her killer remains at large.
I've described this video as the worst video I've ever seen of a murder, and I've seen more videos than I can count. To see a young lady who's full of life and minding her own business be stabbed in such a brutal way, you literally watch her die on the camera while her sisters are standing there, and there's nothing they can do. It's something that I will never forget. It's something that I carry around with me.
Authorities pore over the surveillance footage and make a breakthrough in the case.
The suspect had left a backpack in the BART parking structure, so that was recovered within hours. The backpack had personal identifying information. They matched his ID to the high-definition surveillance footage.
BART PD publicly announced the identity of the person they're searching for, a 27-year-old Caucasian male.
John Lee Cowell. He is a violent felon, and we currently have an active arrest warrant for his arrest for the murder of Nia.
So Mr. Cowell had a conviction for assault with a deadly weapon from 2012, and then he had a conviction for an armed robbery from 2016. And he had actually been in prison for the robbery. He was released maybe a couple of months before this assault.
Authorities release images of Cowell, and the people of Oakland, incensed by Nia's murder, share it across social media.
And I'm just trying to figure out, like, do I know him from somewhere? Like, did we have an interaction with him in any way, shape, or form? Because who is this? And why did he target us? I just feel like rage.
The community takes to the streets, demanding justice for Nia. Nia's senseless killing becomes a cause, with everyday people and celebrities uniting around the hashtag #SaveHerName.
I say to this day it was a hate crime. It doesn't make sense to me. Growing up in Oakland is very diverse. Everybody was one from this random person to just come up behind us and attack. Well, for what reason?
That created an uproar in the community, and they wanted more attention brought to the fact that a young African-American girl had been murdered in such a terrible, horrendous way, and the fact that he was a Caucasian male.
It affected a lot of little kids, and from the young to the old, to the rich and the famous, like all walks of life.
The public outpouring of support is heartening for Nia's family, but they remain shattered, left wondering who John Lee Cowell is and why he caused so much pain.
Why my daughter? Why? Why'd you pick her? I still ask why.
Meanwhile, authorities, along with scores of Oakland citizens, keep searching for Cowell.
I don't know if you heard about Oakland, Oaktown, but when I tell you all my brothers, sisters, cousins, everybody was looking for him.
And rallies continue throughout the day.
I remember marching in front of that was a blur.
Nia's father and her sisters Latifah and Tashaya, along with other members of Nia's family, honor her memory with a crowd of over 1,000 at the MacArthur BART station.
I feel very jubilated in them coming out to help me pursue justice for my daughters.
As the vigil continues, authorities receive a tip.
They got an anonymous phone call from somebody who was actually on a train headed towards Oakland, and the anonymous caller said, the person you're looking for from the stabbing is on the train.
The writer relays Cowell has been riding in the same BART car as the caller since Coliseum Station. Just leaving 12th Street Station, Cowell is headed back to the scene of the crime, MacArthur Station, where Latifah and Tashaya are currently attending the vigil. BART PD dispatch orders a train intercept at MacArthur Station. With police in position to capture Cowell, the train pulls into MacArthur Station. But when the doors open, Cowell is nowhere to be seen. He has evaded police a second time. With Latifah and Tashaya only steps away, could Cowell be coming back to finish the job? Less than 24 hours since wanted man John Lee Cowell is accused of savagely murdering 18-year-old Nia Wilson on Bay Area Rapid Transit, aka BART, BART PD received a mind-blowing tip. Cowell is spotted on BART, traveling towards MacArthur Station, the scene of the crime. At the same time, Nia's family is there at MacArthur attending a vigil. With a team in place to capture him when the train arrives, officers are baffled when Cowell doesn't appear. With Nia's killer so close to her family, anything is possible. Police believe Cowell switched trains, either at 19th Street or even possibly at MacArthur, right under their noses. Dispatch orders another police stop at Pleasant Hill, where officers are already on duty, 4 stations away on the Antioch line. 4 stops with an unhinged, murderous felon on a train loaded with unsuspecting passengers at rush hour. The train passes through Orinda, then Lafayette and Walnut Creek, the last station before Pleasant Hill. This time, Cowell doesn't disappear. Police body cam footage shows the moment he is apprehended.
Our police officers essentially walked down the line, saw Mr. Cowell on the train, asked him to exit, and ultimately identified him and took him into custody.
A new mugshot released of suspected killer John Cowell in custody after a deadly stabbing at an Oakland BART station.
News of Cowell's capture conjures mixed emotions for her mother, Alicia.
I seen it on the news when he was arrested. Out of all places, he was arrested on BART. It's probably good that the police came across him first. He walked in without a scratch, but that was one of my brown brothers or sisters. They would have been beat up when they ain't had no gun. They ain't even did half of what he did. I shouldn't have to bury my child. My child should bury me.
With Nia's killer held in jail, Oaklanders don't let up.
I'm trying my hardest to stay sane. That's very hard. And my little sister is not here. She can't look you dead in the eyes and tell you how she feels. I'm trying, but my anxiety is so bad.
Nia's entire extended family is bent on ensuring Cowell is convicted.
They were really, really focused on making sure that Nia would not be just another statistic, and that sort of spawned into the Say Her Name, and that never lost momentum.
Preparing for the trial, District Attorney Ford weighs whether or not to charge Cowell with not only murder, but a hate crime.
It was a hate crime, racially motivated, however you want to look at it. You killed her because of her skin. You didn't kill her for anything else.
So I absolutely believe that the attack on Nia, Latifah, and ultimately the emotional trauma done to Shia was racially motivated. A couple of reasons for that. There were many women and people who entered into the BART platform. He did not focus on any of them. As soon as he saw 3 young African American women get onto the platform, he fixated on them, and every indication, every angle of the surveillance makes that very clear. While he was in custody, he went out of his way to engage an African American deputy who was a woman and proceeded to call her lots of racial slurs as well. So there's no doubt in my mind that the assault was racially motivated. That's different than whether or not I can prove it's racially motivated.
DA Ford advises Nia's family that his best chance to put Cowell away for good is to charge Cowell with premeditated murder and lying in wait.
Once I made that clear to them, I was lucky enough to gain their trust, that they believed in me, that I would get them the justice they wanted.
But Cowell has a plan to thwart the DA's case against him. With a history of mental illness, Cowell is claiming insanity. 19 months after 18-year-old Nia Wilson is murdered, John Cowell stands trial for killing her and stabbing Nia's sister Latifah. Cowell claims innocence by reason of insanity.
He just made a mockery out of it, like the things he was talking about up there, because he wanted to play crazy. So that was draining. Just his shenanigans.
Under cross-examination, Cowell is combative.
He was happy to answer questions about what had occurred before the stabbing, but as soon as we got to the actual stabbing, he refused to answer any questions. At one point, I intended to play the video of the stabbing for him to demonstrate that he knew what he was doing. He started screaming, yelling, cussing at me, telling me that I knew he was innocent, and simply disrupting the courtroom.
Ford has firsthand knowledge of Cowell's mental state.
Mr. Cowell's focus was trying to demonstrate to the jury and to the judge that he was essentially insane and incompetent. There's no doubt that there's a mental health crisis in our community and in our country, but that's distinct and separate from people who are out to commit crimes who have a mental health history. He was just a very, very bad person who was out to commit crimes. Part of trial prep is I'm responsible for listening to every jail call, and sometimes there were hundreds and hundreds of jail calls leading up to a trial. But Mr. Cowell was happy to discuss his trial strategy on the phones with an aunt who he spoke to almost every day. And he also was happy to speak to his mental health caregivers, because Mr. Cowell had mental health issues. There's no disputing that. But he also was forthcoming that he needed to stop taking his medication so that he could appear more crazy when the trial started. I think it was an absolute show by him.
Nia's family is on the edge of their seats awaiting the verdict.
I was waiting for it, but not waiting for it. Just the dread of having to go sit through this.
I want to get him. You know.
He was ultimately convicted of premeditated murder and lying in wait murder of Nia Wilson, and attempted premeditated murder of Latifah Wilson, both using a knife, and was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
Yes, I really think justice was served. Spend the rest of his life in prison.
He's in jail for the rest of his life, but I don't get my sister back. I gotta live with that every day. It's hard.
The public's show of love and support continues at Nia's memorial service.
It's about 400 people. It was beautiful.
A lot of people came. I didn't expect to come, like the mayor, and that was on the news, having this celebration of life for her.
She was dressed in gold and white, had a white casket. They gave her a carriage ride after the funeral and released doves.
The effects of Nia's sudden and unthinkable end extend to every family member.
It was just something that I couldn't believe, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. Messed around and had a stroke. Some people say it's from grieving. I have limited use of my right side, my leg, my arm. I don't speak too clear. My dogs keep me up. We have a husky. She's very spoiled, and she made me take her out for walks. She keep me going. She's my therapy.
I thank the Most High that I'm still here, but I told my therapist I wish it was me. because I still feel that guilt of I couldn't save her. That was my baby. Like a sister's love can never be defined.
I just take it day by day, meditate, try to go on walks and stuff by myself, try to figure out who I am all over again, because I lost myself.
Yeah, I always say, Nia, you make me a better person. They say you only got your name. I carry my daughter's name with a heavy weight. So whatever I do, I think about her because I can't feel her in no type of way.
Nia's death was deeply felt, not only by her loved ones, but by an entire city, and her legacy lives on.
I think Nia wants to be remembered how she loved people, how she cared for people, how her passion for people and rights for everybody.
Me and my daughters and the rest of us will see this through. We will make it, even though it's very hard and it's something that we'll think about for the rest of our lives. But we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it.